Hi, this is Priyanka and I welcome you all to Srijan Wednesday webinars. For those who are attending for the first time, this is a community initiative by Srijan Technologies. As a part of this initiative, we will host webinars every alternate Wednesday. We will have speakers from different domains who will talk about subjects like front-end technologies, UI UX, mobile apps, media, entrepreneurship, community building, digital marketing, and many more. In today's webinar, Kiat will talk about UX improvements of Drupal 8 and how your clients can benefit from them. The last 15 minutes will be for a Q&A round. Please press the raise hand button on your control panel to ask your question by speaking into your microphone, or you can type your questions in the chat box below. I would now like to introduce our speaker for today's session. We have with us Kiat Lim. Kiat is the CEO and Principal Consultant at Pixel Onion, a Drupal consultancy firm based in Singapore. Over the last 10 years, he has helped clients in using Drupal as the primary platform to manage their web experiences. So without wasting any more time, I think we should get started. Kiat, over to you.
Thanks, Priyanka. Hi, everyone. It's a pretty late afternoon over here. It's about 5:30 in Singapore. So thanks for joining us at this webinar where we'll take a look at some of the user experience improvements that the UX team in Drupal community has put in to improve on Drupal 8. And this is some of the areas of why it really matters and how we can actually take advantage of some of these improvements right from the current Drupal 7 implementations that we are all developing on. So a little bit about me, basically I started doing Drupal since Drupal 5, and it has been over about 10 years since I've started building websites. I present at various Drupal camp in Singapore as well as in Manila. I try to contribute over to Drupal 8 user experience, here's my Drupal.org account, and if you'd like to get in touch with me, there's my email and my Twitter handle over there. So basically on Drupal user experience, what are some of the motivations that really drives this push in terms of improving the entire UX for Drupal? I think we all know that in Drupal 6, for many of us that have been developing in Drupal 6, we all know that the usability is really quite bad when it comes to content authors, site builders, and developers. So usability test was being done and it was quite a disaster. In Drupal 7, when they were just launched, the UX team basically fixed a lot of critical flaws. That includes, the 7 admin team that came together in the core. So that kind of synchronized a lot of user experience consistency and made Drupal 7 better to use, right? But when it comes to Drupal 8, the entire UX team is really aimed at really solving some of the really key issues that was really very, very critical to how the UX of Drupal is. And basically, as early as 2011, there was already usability tests done in large groups over in various conferences and events. So in the entire Drupal user experience, there was these 5 areas that basically what the UX team aims for, basically the author experience to improve on content authors to manage the content. Then on the site building for site builders, how the entire experience in improving how easy it is to build sites in Drupal. Mobile, something that is a necessity today. And there was this style guide which I will share a little bit later on. And basically a lot of the processes improvement of how contents and everything else is being managed. So here are some of the key contributors for Drupal 8 user experience. These are names that can be found in the usability group in Drupal.org. Bohan, Roy, and Terence. So Roy is working in Wunderkraut, and this Terence, Kevin, is actually working in Acquia. So let's dive into some of the improvements in Drupal 8. The first one being something that's very obvious is the responsive 7 team, which is admin team, and Bartik. So the considerable amount of effort has been put in to improve, basically make these two admin teams and the public Bartik team responsive and mobile friendly. So even to the point of creating contents, editing a page, yeah, and the default theme is all responsive, entirely responsive. There is this visual style that has been defined for the entire 7 team. So basically, new content authors will be able to see a more consistent look and feel across the different design elements, from how the fields are being rendered, how the colors, what colors, how tabs and all the different design elements are being rendered. So this consistency between the 7 team, the admin team, and the content authors really helps to basically reduce the amount of confusion, especially when module developers are creating new modules and all this. There's a certain style guide that they can follow right now to ensure a more consistent user interface. When it comes to adding contents, so as we can see, there's this entirely new layout for creating our contents. One of those would be definitely, I think we all know, which is the VCV editor is now part of the core. VCV editor hasn't been there for the last 10 years, and this is the first time that it has been decided on. So the VCV editor is using CK editor. Aside from that, basically we can also see that the layout has been changed into a 2-column layout. We could achieve something like this using display suite back in Drupal 7. So this is totally new in Drupal 8 core. Yeah. So even on the save and publish, you also notice that it's a little bit different on the naming and the convention of the labels. So previously, when we look at save and publish, as well as save as unpublished, it was a checkbox, right, in our publishing options. So now it's an entirely new way presenting to the content authors. Yeah. And we can see the side panel. It is actually very much familiar if those of us have been like toying around with WordPress. There's this meta sidebar, and all the information about the content is being shown. The other aspect of Drupal 8 improvement would be the inline in-place editing. So it used to be that we have to go into our admin area, right, when we click on the edit tab to edit our contents. So over here in Drupal 8, you can right away be able to do a quick edit of any of the fields, and this is not just rich text editor field, but the title, the taxonomy field, or any other fields that you create for your content type can all be edited in place. And so this improvement actually allows the content authors to actually not having to go into an entirely new page, but they can make content changes more quickly on the fly. Yeah. The other aspect will be in terms of listing of contents. I think we are all very familiar that by default in Drupal 7, we are not able to search for the nodes in our the node listing, the content listing portion, right? So in Drupal 8, this is the default view of where there's a search for the title. The same filtering options for the type and publishing status are all there. And there's also additional tabs for files at the annotation number 1 over there. Yeah. So by default in Drupal 8, site builders, content authors do not have to install contributed modules to start finding their contents. Similarly, for the people listing, when it comes to finding of the people, we have to extend Drupal 7 by installing additional modules in order to search and find our users. In Drupal 8, everything is all built into the core, so very easily we could just type in the name or email or filter by role to find our users. So some of these improvements on to the content orders is the convenience. To the site builder, convenience is also in the sense that you do not really have to, especially for new site builders, right? You do not have to then look for contributed modules in order to achieve something similar, but it's already available in Drupal 8. So this user experience improvement really helps getting more site builders to onboard and be familiarized with what the core can offer to them in terms of improved UX. When it comes to editing menu, I think we are all very familiar also that adding of a new menu item and editing the menu's description is in two different places in Drupal 7. So over here in Drupal 8, it's all considered into one single page. So we can actually see that adding of a menu, adding link is all now in this one page. So it makes it much convenient that you do not, you really only have one single page to go to, to add and edit your links. On the module listing portion, in Drupal 7, we see that it's all in a mess, right? So on Drupal 8, the improvements without having to install additional modules will be such that we are able to do a search filtering out the module name right away, and these various arrows under the description area allows you to actually expand. So certain of this information is being hidden by default, that the user can see a more clean listing of the modules, and if they want to find out more with the links to configuration or permissions, it's all within the expand of the tab. This is one very major changes in the entire presentation, which is the blocks management and placement. So in Drupal 7, we are similar in Drupal 6 was that the blocks that are unused is all right away at the bottom. And if you have a couple of regions, you have quite a number of blocks in your implementation, finding the correct block to put up into the right region is going to be quite a chore, right? So in Drupal 8, we basically changed the way of how the blocks and regions are being presented. Placement of blocks is all on the right. So all this, the sidebar on the right shows blocks that are not being used, and also note that they are being categorized by with a label at the top, so that user can actually scan through the different categories of the blocks much more easily. So the other and custom blocks are now grouped under a custom category. So basically, custom blocks are really those static HTML text or PHP codes that we put into a block and insert them into a region. So those are custom blocks. Yeah. I'd like to see if I can show you a demo, just to go through it in better detail. Yeah. So I'll just run through this. One of the other very key improvement was that views is now in core, but you guys may be thinking, why are views? What kind of UX improvement can views have? Right? So the views interface are not much being changed. There isn't much change in terms of how you will edit a view, but the single feature of it being in the core has a great impact to site builders' user experience, because especially we are talking about new site builders that aren't aware that views is something that they should install right at the beginning. So with views being part of the core, many of the listing pages and all that are all powered by views. And with that, it allows us to very quickly understand the concept of views as a site builder, and then be able to make these modifications without having to extend it with additional modules. So right off the installation, I could straight away build pages in listing and tables without having to say, oh, I need to install views, I need to install this and that. So having views in the core really improves the entire user experience for a site builder on how they can get a hang of what Drupal is and what kind of power does it have. So with that, I really urge you to give Drupal 8 a try. This link leads to alpha version, which is probably last updated around 23rd of April. So that is quite a stable release, and you can actually give yourself give a run over Drupal 8. So how can we, there are all of these improvements, how can we actually take advantage of some of this improved user experience in Drupal 7? So the Drupal community, there's a strong push from Acquia. Acquia is basically the enterprise hosting and support arm, where Dries founded. So they actually created this Sparks distribution, which is a consolidator of modules and configuration that basically shows improved content author experience in Drupal. So you can download this Sparks distribution and give it a try. But I've went through this distribution and took out some of the modules that we can just install right away. Yeah. So one of them is basically navbar. So the navbar module is one of those that once you install it and with some configuration, you can actually straight away have not this line, straight away have a mobile-friendly responsive toolbar that you can use on your phone to navigate the admin area of your site. The edit module in Drupal 7 also is the one that allows for the inline editing. So once this is installed, we can straight away edit inline in any of our content types. Yeah. For a responsive admin theme, when in Drupal 7, the 7 core, the 7 theme in core is not responsive. So Ember is one of those that has this responsive theme. Is one of those responsive admin theme that you can try installing. So you can see the look and feel is pretty slick. The entire feel. Yeah. Admin views is the other module that you can try. Basically, it converts all of this author, content listing, people listing into views that you could extend it further using views, adding more fields, adding more filters to your preference, or creating more of these pages. Yeah. In Drupal 8, we saw that there was this improved way of listing of modules. So in Drupal 7, you could achieve something similar using the module filter module. Yeah. That basically shows all the categories on the left and has a search filter. You can just key in the module name and it will show up. Yeah. So how can you really help? We can see that Drupal 8 is there. You can give it a try, but there are actually still quite a number of issues and tasks that anyone can help to contribute. And one of those is really to help implement these ideas that are in the Drupal 8 issue queue. The other one, this is related, will be basically the 7 style guide. So a lot of basically in 7, there was this entire proposed idea of how the admin team should look like, how the file management, how uploading of images and all this should look like. So this style guide gives an initial guideline, but it still requires contributed effort to implement them. So there's this related issues list in this track over here, and it's something that you can actually help with basically writing patches to implement. Basically, if you are familiar with CSS and HTML, you can actually start helping to contribute into the 7 style guide. And last but not least, of course, is to participate in the UX discussion. So it's all happening in RRC in Drupal usability. And you can also join the groups in usability group and basically start mingling with us and discuss about any of these topics. Lastly, there is a Drupal camp coming up in 14th of June. So if you are going to be interested in coming down to Singapore, you can come by on the 14th of June to our Drupal camp. Yeah, so this year's team, we are pushing towards Drupal 8. So we call it the power of 8. So there will be topics and presentations all revolving around Drupal 8 and how it will impact the entire web industry. Yeah. So that's all. I think we still have some time, Priyanka.
Yes, Kiat, thank you for such a great session. It was very quick and to the point. Why don't you just run them through the presentation again, just like a quick walkthrough?
Okay, so I actually, since we have some time, we could take a look at the Drupal 8, some of these things that I've mentioned in the actual site. Right. So when we look at this, I have some dummy pages already created. Yeah, so over here you can see that this filtering, listing of contents is all here. Editing of a page. Yeah, there's this inline quick edit option. Yeah. That you can make changes to, and it will be saved right away. And on the admin area, if you were to click on the edit tab, some of these new differences in the publishing options, putting of the content in menu, your URL path, etc. is all available through the sidebar. And let me showing a little bit of the responsive admin team. So you can see how the admin menu actually collapses itself to fit for mobile device. There was this motivation about being able to edit your contents over in mobile, and this was recently we met a client, and they were intending to do a revamp over their Drupal website. So one of the key requirements that he mentioned was, hey, Kiat, these days I've been publishing my images and everything else through Facebook, and it's so easy, and we can just put up our push out images, write things and all that right away through the Facebook updates. But why can't I do it with my website? So this made it possible through Drupal 8, where if users and content authors are able to then make content updates so readily on the fly over using their mobile device, and I think that there's going to be a big improvement in how fast the content can be pushed out, and they don't really have to just compare it to their Facebook or Instagram anymore. They could just use their website to publish out all these contents right from their phone. The other one that we talked about was this block placement of blocks. So now blocks, you can see that there is all this custom these labels over here. We've actually created a custom block called footer, and it's being categorized under the custom category. And they are no longer very long lists of blocks that goes all the way down like how we used to see in Drupal 7 and Drupal 6. So this interface is an entirely new interface that makes it much easily to add in. So I have this footer block that is not being placed in any of the region yet. So clicking on it brings me to this portion where I can easily select where will I place this block. Yeah. And once the block is being placed in the region, it goes down there, and yeah, and also notice one thing. I have multiple reference of this block itself. So one of the improvements is also that you can now have blocks appearing in the region multiple times, and appearing on maybe different pages. So this is something that when it comes to certain requirements, we can do it right away off using blocks without having to write much of PHP codes to achieve this kind of effect. And there's this custom block library that shows all your custom blocks that you have created. Yeah, so basically this gives you some general idea of the improvements from Drupal 8.
All right, thanks, Kate. We are going to take a couple of questions here. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, so please press in the raise hand button to ask your question directly on the microphone, or you can type in your questions in the chat box below. So as a follow-up question for the demo you were just showing, I have received a question from Abhilash. He's asking, I know the CMS that you're showing is Drupal, but for the front end, what must be good compatible platform, I think. That's what he's trying to ask.
From the front end, what must be compatible? As in what, browsers or dependencies in terms of JavaScript libraries?
He wants to know about the libraries and the platform.
Okay. So when we were trying out some of these Drupal 7 improvements, right? Like the navbar and all these things. From just by installing the navbar, it actually requires us to install several dependencies in our libraries folder. So I'm just gonna dive straight there to show it to you. In order to achieve the same effect that's required by this improved user experience. Yeah. So I don't know whether you can see it. There was this requirement for modernizer library, underscore, JavaScript library, and backbone. Yeah. So far, this was the tree that is kind of a dependency after I installed the modules that drives some of the Drupal 8 improvements. So I'm not sure if this answers your question in terms of the front end requirements. Yeah. Any other questions?
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Abhilash, I hope that answers your question. If you have more questions, please feel free to type them in. We have another question by Ankit. He is asking, can you please Can you please talk about cover file structure of Drupal 8 in this session?
Oh, okay, sure. Well, the Drupal 8 file structure is pretty different, and on the site builder experience, I think this is also probably something important. I'm not sure if you all can see the zoom in version though. So in Drupal 8 now, if you were to download the alpha, the Drupal 8 alpha, you will see that all the core files are all stored inside the core folder. And basically everything else that's outside here is what used to be in our sites folder. Right. So right now in the sites folder, it is really just our database settings and files. Of course, the files could reside elsewhere. And everything else, including themes, contributor modules, are all out here. Yeah. So the README also says that they'll put all the custom modules that extends your site functionality in this directory, and everything else that's in the core will be in the core folder itself. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, all right, thank you. Ankit has a follow-up question. He is asking, is there an online editing of content available for all the fields?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, he's asking you, is online editing of content available for all the fields?
You mean the in-place editing?
Yes.
Right. So the in-place editing, yes, is available for all the fields in the entity. So this even includes taxonomy, term reference, um, file fields, image fields, etc. They're all you could do inline editing with them. Article, image. Yeah. So you can actually make changes to text right on the in-place editing. Okay.
All right, thank you. So we have another question here. Amit is asking, can you give some information about the new technologies that can be used in Drupal 8?
Uh, can you elaborate the question in terms of like new technologies of how Drupal 8 was being built, or um, what can Drupal 8 do?
As in how Drupal 8 is built.
Right.
Yeah.
I think from the developer, well, I'm not really entirely a developer, so I'll try to answer this as best as I can, right? I think as far as we all know, Drupal 8 is all powered by Symfony, the PHP framework, right? And there has been basically is the way that in Drupal 8, a lot of the things that has been done are basically kind of like the best of every places. So with the team, we are using Twig. With the PHP, we're using Symfony. On the JavaScript front end and all that, they were all very modern libraries that are being used to achieve Drupal 8. So there was this saying that Drupal 8 is kind of like everywhere, with basically using all sorts of technologies that are all around today's modern web practices. Yeah. But as to what exactly they are, I couldn't be the best person to answer that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm sure you tried your best in giving that answer. So we have another question here. Abhilash is asking, how do you think Drupal's UX is simple as per e-commerce market? Is it suitable for the e-commerce market?
Okay, so whether Drupal interface is it suitable for the e-commerce market? I think, well, it depends on how you compare. What kind of e-commerce platform do you compare Drupal with, right? So if we were to just do a very simple comparison between Drupal is really a bare interface right now compared to, let's say, if you have used Shopify, BigCommerce, all this software as a service kind of where considerable amount of effort has been done to design the interface. So for Drupal to catch up in that is definitely not going to be, it's going to be taking a long time, because after all, Drupal is being treated more like a framework. So how you would design it, how the well, the beauty is really in the aspect of flexibility and customization, right? So whereas those pre-packaged e-commerce solutions, you end up with a very fixed interface that the user has to be familiar with, right? But not necessarily that everyone feels that that kind of interface would be the best to suit for all sorts of scenarios. So when it comes to Drupal, having an interface that you can control and you can define for users. So take a very simple scenario. If two different rows of users are going to publish products, one could only publish certain fields and one could publish all other fields. There's no way that you're going to achieve something like this with any of the existing solutions out there without paying more or upgrading or waiting a long time for them to develop this kind of feature. But in Drupal, we could basically extend our modules, right? Like having a few permissions, for example, and you could achieve something like this. So really, fundamentally, Drupal is the flexible portion is a big win. Well, but if you really want it to be quick and pretty and nice, then of course the existing solutions out there will work. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Kate. We have another question by Pooja. She's asking, for a Drupal themer, what new things are added in Drupal 8 template system? She means page TFL files.
Okay, so if we were to look at our Drupal 8 theme again. Okay. We could take a look at just Bartik alone. And over here in template, first thing you will notice that there are no longer tpl.php files, right? So there has been this move from tpl.php into the Twig templating engine. Let me just open up Twig. So a lot of the syntax is now different. So this is one of the major change if you are a Drupal themer and you do a lot of customization within tpl.php template files. So this would be one of the major change that will affect you, that you need to shift from the PHP echoing out and printing out of variables to this Twig system. Yeah. But a lot of times when we are building Drupal sites, we tend to achieve as many of the results by not modifying the TPL.php or the template files. We aim at doing it over on using display suite or panels, etc. Yeah, to achieve the results. Then unless you really have to use this to modify regions. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
All right, thank you. So we have another question by Ankit. He's asking, what is being done in Drupal 8 to improve the site performance? That is decreasing the page load time, etc.
I won't be able to answer that in the aspect of the performance aspect. Yeah.
All right, not a problem. Ankit, I hope you understand that Kiat is not from that background. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to type in. In the meanwhile, we'll take another question by Rajiv. He's asking, Twig is default templating system for this Drupal 8. So does that mean we can't use PHP template anymore?
That's a pretty good question. I think it's kind of like when we are in Drupal 6 or in Drupal 5, we talk about, oh, I don't like the PHP templating engine, PHP template engine, right? that was used to power all of this CPR.php. And then people will say, oh, let's use Smarty, let's use any other of this templating engine. But it really requires us to then modify the core or to change the entire engine to use the ones that we prefer. But in this scenario, in Drupal 8, there's a huge motivation in the reason why they are using Twig for a more, I would say it's a more human-friendly kind of templating engine, and there's less prone in terms of whether are we going to print variables or are we going to print functions or anything. Yeah. So to a teamer, it would be much easier to pick up from, let's say, if you're coming in from a HTML, CSS kind of background. Whereas, of course, from the developer, the PHP developer, it may not be where it's going to, you really need to break out from your comfort zone in order to get used to it. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Kate. We have another question by Avilash. He's asking, for a beginner, how can somebody start with Drupal? I mean, somebody who's a beginner in web technologies, how should he start with Drupal?
Okay. I started Drupal when it was in Drupal 5, but back then I was doing more design. I was designing PSDs and all that for Drupal, and I got more understanding of how Drupal works when I was creating contents and basically populating contents and all this. So there was a site builder. He did all the job in creating the content types and everything else. And by using the administration system, that gives a good initial start, you know, to understand, oh, so this is how Drupal works. And basically because there are certain core fundamental concepts, right? Like when we are talking about content types, we're talking about fields, the various fields in your content type, how you will list down contents in views, etc. So I think these concepts are the basics that could be understood by when you are using the back-end administration, populating of contents, and from there, once you get a better understanding of all these core concepts, that you can then move into perhaps styling, doing a bit of CSS of the theme, or basically moving on into more of a site builder where you create your own content types to extend the functionality of Drupal, and those are generally a good path to get started in being able to use Drupal before even going into like writing modules and all those things. I think those are probably not I wouldn't recommend moving into that right away without first understanding the core concepts of the various way of how Drupal works.
All right, thank you, Kiat. I hope Abhilash that answers your question. Abhilash wants to know if there are any good tutorial links that you would like to recommend or some resources.
Tutorial links to any specific areas that you are interested in? Is it more on like Twig or on?
He wants to learn Drupal basically.
Okay. uh, there are of course the usual ones, right? Like we saw from Drupalize Me, which is training videos. There's one, we're not sure if this is still available, from Note 1. There may be still quite a number of videos over here. And build a module is another one that you can take a look at. But of course, all of these video trainings, they may have some beginners track. Yeah, and some may require you to pay. well, if you have a library over at your location and looking out for any beginner's book for Drupal, and I think those are good resources to begin with. But whereas if it's online, most of these resources are paid resources, yeah. Except for this one over here at Note 1. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Kiat. Maybe Abhilash will send a mail out to you with all the resources, both free and paid for beginners after the webinar. All right. So if anybody has any more questions, please feel free to ask them. In the meanwhile, I would like to understand, Kiat, can you please share a few quick tips for people who want to use these features, these improvements in Drupal 7 without an upgrade?
Okay. So what I have over here, this is Drupal 7 installation where I had installed some of the modules that we talked about, right? Like we removed this toolbar and basically added in this responsive toolbar that can help to improve in terms of navigating through the admin area from your mobile device. And the other one will be this admin views. Some of these admin views is one of those that I install it almost on all my sites because I couldn't stand the default way of listing of contents. So being able to filter my contents and see a list of them, especially when you are manipulate a site that has over thousands of contents nodes. Yeah. So this module can be really handy. Of course, the others like Ember, I think all these are really more appearance kind of modules that make you feel good when you are editing or managing your site. Of course, to the content authors, these are really also pretty nice enhancements that they don't see, the pretty dull looking 17 when it was at Drupal 7. So all this enhanced quite a bit in terms of the look and feel. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So do you think, are there any other improved features in Drupal 8 that you think will be tremendously beneficial or useful?
Many of the improvements in Drupal 8, other than the user UX aspects, are a lot on. I think one of the really big ones is in the aspect of configuration management. So for us, for example, when we are building sites that are larger, we have basically a staging environment, we have a development environment and production environment, etc. Right? So often moving from, let's say, changes in your development environment, pushing it into the staging and then deploying it into production. When it comes to Drupal 7, you have to rely a lot on features, the features module. But in Drupal 8, there's this big thing for configuration management. So importing of configuration can be all done much easily. Basically moving things that you have changed over in the database into codes and then importing into a new environment. So this is one of the very big change aside from the mobile initiative, of course. Yeah. So of course the mobile one will be one of the other big thing. Yeah. But I see that this configuration management tool will be one of those that is really going to be helping Drupal penetrate into the enterprise kind of environment, especially when these days websites are getting more and more complex. Having this management feature of the configuration really helps. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'll take two more questions here. I have a question by Pooja. She's asking, as a Drupal themer, how can I contribute to Drupal 8?
So as I was sharing earlier on, as a Drupal themer, one of the most immediate things that you can get started on really is to look at this style guide of 7 style guide. So that is basically, as we can see from this 7 style guide, there's a whole list of improvements done onto the 7 theme, right? And this requires requires us to help implement these features in, right? So this is the link proposal for style guide. Yeah. So when it comes to colors, icons, fields, etc. So all these improvements are user interface improvements that requires someone with good HTML, CSS, JavaScript skills, and some understanding of patching Drupal and all this to contribute. So if you think you have these skills, you can start looking at these related child issues over here. Many of them have already there are already some work being done to it, that there are already people contributing some patches and all these things. So you can look for those that that kind of interest you and get started from there. Yeah. So that's for themer. I think this is one of the most immediate ways that you can contribute back to Drupal 8. Yeah. And the whole idea of this style guide is really giving a more consistency look and feel across the administration. Yeah. So like for example, this file view portion, how it was being proposed that how files should be uploaded in with this kind of highlights and all this.
All right. Thank you, Kiat. Pooja, I hope that answers your question. I'm going to take one last question here from Rajiv. Rajiv is asking, if we talk about themers pain, especially CSS writing, how much improvement are we expecting in Drupal 8 for them?
Improvements in terms of CSS writing, I think it's still, end of the day, applies more onto what base theme that you are using, right? Like whether, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your questions correctly, yeah? So let's say we are using Zen as the base theme. So still very much in terms of what elements that you put up there is all handled in your Drupal configuration, right? So how CSS, how someone would write CSS, whether they are using Sass and Compass and all this front-end preprocessor, really boils out a lot onto how the base theme works, yeah, and how the base theme would require you to write your style sheet in what kind of format. So there's this heavy, there's this push in terms of the way that CSS file should be managed, and it is also being used in the Zen theme, which is called Smax. Yeah, so you can actually read out about using Smax to, what's the how to use it to manage your style sheet and write style sheet much more efficiently. This doesn't apply to just Drupal, of course it applies to every aspect of writing CSS for the Mac. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Kate. Rajiv, if you have more questions, please feel free to drop a mail at webinars@srijan.in. I would like to thank Kiat once again for joining us in this webinar, and thank you for sharing your presentation. I'm sure everybody found it very interesting and insightful. And thanks a lot to everyone else for joining us in today's webinar. Before we just wrap up, I'd like to announce that our next webinar is on how to convert site visitor to leads by Nilesh Patel on 28th of May. Nilesh is CEO and founder of Lead Squared, a software company that creates marketing softwares for entrepreneurs and small businesses. For registrations, you'll be getting a mail from our site, so stay tuned and have a nice day.